Have you ever seen anyone in this game doing 471 damage or higher? Because I haven't personally. Like, this is the most damage I have ever seen per hit. 471. This video is going to be all about boss charms. Whether you're a beginner, a mid-game, or late game, this video can help you. So there is currently 9 boss charms you can use to defeat bosses that I know of. If I'm missing any, then please let me know. So this video is going to be split into 3 parts. There's going to be a beginner, a mid-game, and a late game. So whether you're looking to up your damage to 30 or up your damage to 400, this video will help. So as a beginner and you're looking into starting to defeat bosses, you are going to need some charms, because charms can heavily help your boss damage increase. Now there is other boss items like the regen coil that can help you regen more health, but we will talk about that later in the video, because the regen coils, you could probably use the first one, but the upgraded one, that's probably for mid and late game. So this section of the video is going to be about beginners. So as a beginner, the first thing you want to do when you're starting to look into defeating bosses is head to this little cabin in the woods. No, I'm not referencing a movie. And go to this little cabin called the Combat Guild. If you don't know where the Combat Guild is, I can show you on the map. It is near Fernhill Forest. I will zoom in so you can get a proper look, and it's right there. So the first thing you want to do is come to this cabin. And the first question you may have is why? Well, that is because this cabin is everything you would ever need to start defeating bosses as a beginner. So the first thing you want to do is grab a mission from Mr. Coldblood here, and he will give you a bounty mission which then takes you on a task to defeat bosses or to dig shiny items. And you might be wondering, why am I doing this task? You're doing this task because if you look at the bottom left of your screen, you will see something called a bounty hunter. And each quest you do, your bounty will go up by +1. So you always want to be running those bounty missions as much as possible until you hit times 60, because times 60 is actually the max. So whether you're a beginner, mid-game or late game, you always want to be grabbing these missions until you hit level 60. Now, onto the charms. So in the Combat Guild, there is 3 different charms. You get the Super Regen Coil, the War Shield, and the Regen Coil. If you're a new player, I would suggest getting the Regen Coil. Mid-game, War Shield. Late game, Super Regen Coil. But there is some builds that you can do with charms that don't even require any of those items. And then also there is this really OP shovel that's on the wall that does 6 control, 7 haste, 15 luck, 6 strength, and boss damage 80. Boss damage 80 is the same boss damage as late game. So if you have 40,000 spare, I would heavily suggest buying the Slayer shovel. So now you might be wondering, as a beginner, what charms do I use? Now, this is where it can get a little pricey, but it can also boost your boss damage up tremendously. So if you just head to Foxtown, which is Spawn, and go to something called the Charms Shack. So this is where you can get your starter charms to start you off on your charm journey. So here we have the Blue Coil, the Rock Pounder, the Lucky Bell, the Shoulder Bag, the Controlled Glove, and the Vision Goggles. The only item you may ever need in this little hut is something called the Rock Pounder, which costs $500. Because what this does is this gives you something called boss damage. Now, I do have a pair of Rock Pounder gloves that you can see right here. And what it does, at an SS grade, endurance is 13, that doesn't really help. But the boss damage is what you're looking for. It does plus 5%. And as a new player, that is very good. That is an S grade, but what you can do is just buy like 4 or 5 of them and then just use your best grade one. So that was all your early beginner game charms that you need. So the next charm you're going to want is something called a blue shroom cap, and where this is located is inside the cinder cavern. And what you do is just drive forward and head straight into the elevator, because you want to go down for this charm, because there is a mission you're going to need to complete for this one. So once you get this blue shroom cap, the main thing you're going to be looking for is boss damage. That is what you got the cap for. That is why you done the mission. The mission is very easy. If you just dig in the area that you got the mission and you dig out these crystals. So now we're going to be moving on to mid-game, because so you're going to have your blue shroom cap, you're going to have your rock pounder, and you're going to have your regen coil. And that should have only cost you around, I would say, just a couple of thousand. It wouldn't cost you much at all. Now you're going to be looking into how to get better and bigger charms. And this is where we need to take the ferry. So I have just missed the ferry. I'm going to have to wait another 2 minutes, but that's fine. Because the next item we're going to need is something called a ninja headband. Now once you cross the ferry, you are going to want to come to the Alona jungle. And what you want to do is just take a right. And right here is exactly where the ninja headband is. I can show you on the map so you can see fully. It is just right in that corner of the Alona jungle. And this ninja headband, you've got to have some money for this one. This is why this is classed as like a mid-game to late-game item. So what this ninja headband does, it gives you tremendous boss damage. So I'm not going to purchase one because I already have quite a few of them. But if I show you what the ninja headbands look at an SS grade, obviously you probably won't have an SS grade, but we're going to talk about chiseling in a second. So what you want to do is get a ninja band and just equip it for 25,000. You want to get that as soon as possible because it really does make a difference. Like if you look at the blue shroom cap, it does 8 damage at a B grade. The rock pounder does 5% at an S grade. And then the ninja headband at a double S grade does +8. So it is much higher than all the others. So if you have enough money, I would recommend buying 2 and running 2. Like this. With a blue shroom cap. Obviously, you're probably going to want better grades than that, but this is where something called chiseling comes into effect. So if you just brought a charm and you see the grade is like a C or a D and you're thinking, ew, I don't want that charm. What can I do to make it better instead of buying a whole new charm? What you can do is come to the bank and head to the appraiser. Because in the appraiser, you can purchase an item called a charm chisel for 25,000. So this is the same price as a ninja headband, but you don't have to rebuy it every single time. So what you can do with this charm chisel is, if you go into your charms, and if I locate the blue shroom cap and press this little pencil button, oh first you got to unequip it, and then press the pencil button, I can re-roll the stats of this charm for $550. So we're going to do that, and I just got boss damage S grade, and that gives a +9% boss damage. So a blue shroom cap is honestly better than the ninja headband. And it's free. All you got to do is complete a mission. Like a SS graded ninja headband does 8. An S grade blue shroom cap does 9. So you're definitely going to want a blue shroom cap. Now for endgame players, you are going to probably want to squeeze every little boss damage you can get out of your shovel. Like right now, you're going to have a Slayer shovel which costs 40,000, which does 80 boss damage, but the shovel is not very good. So what you want to do is try and get something better. And what you can do is get these shovels from boss drops. Like you can get the Archinid shovel, which is dropped by the spider, which gives 80 boss damage. You can get the Glinted shovel, which I made a whole video on how to get, so go and check that out if you want to get the Glinted. You can get the Monstrous shovel, which does 85 damage. You can get this dropped from defeating the Molten boss. And then you get the Venomous shovel, which you get dropped from defeating the Basilisk. So they're all the type of high-end boss damage shovels that you are looking for endgame. So for this next charm is a charm that you're going to need to defeat the Molten boss. Now the Molten boss is located inside a cave, but when you enter the cave you start taking damage immediately. And this item allows you to not take damage. So right now, in the Alona jungle, if I try and enter this big, scary looking red cave, I will start taking damage immediately, like that. But if I head to the tribe over here and speak to this person that's standing next to the board, they will give you a mission to get an item called the Magma Boots. Now what these Magma Boots do is they allow you to enter inside of Mount Charcoal. So if I take off, let's say, one of the ninja headbands and equip the Magma Boots, I should now be able to enter the cave. And that mission there is actually really hard. Like, you've got to buy the Glinted shovel, which costs like 300,000. Like, the boots are going to probably cost you around 600,000 to obtain. But as soon as you've done that, you can then drive into this cave right here. And if you start digging and complete something called the Journal of Mount Charcoal, of all these beautiful looking items, including the boss drops, including the boss itself, you will get dropped. After completing this, you will get a charm called the Blazing Gauntlet. And what this does is, if I take off my Magma Boots, you will see I start taking damage, but as soon as I put on the Blazing Gauntlet, I stop taking damage again. This also gives you control. So the Blazing Gauntlet is like levels above the Magma Boots, because it also gives you heat proof and control, where Magma Boots just gives you heat proof. Endurance is not bad, but it's not really needed against bosses. That I know of anyway, but I'm not a very good boss guide. So once you get all of those boots, the gauntlet, and you've headed to the jungle and you have all these fancy charms, the next charm you're going to be looking for is actually the best boss damage charm in the game. This is serious endgame now. This charm is called Radioactive Horns. And this is where your SS boss damage will then take an increase to 19% per item. Or 17%. I don't really know the difference between these. They're both SS grade. I guess you can just get lucky and then unlucky. Because I do have 3 sets. I've got a 17%, an 18%, and a 19%. And you might be wondering, how do I get these OP radioactive horns? And it's pretty simple. All you got to do is defeat the Molten boss. And there is a chance that it gets dropped. So I have defeated about 8 to 10 Molten bosses, and what that has given me, around 3 radioactive horns boss drops. And what you can do with these radioactive horns is very special. Because, so if I equip one on a new loadout, I can also equip another. And what's even more special is, I can also equip another. Now, 3 boss radioactive horns, all at double S grade. What kind of damage do you think I will be doing? With a Glinted shovel and 60 times Bounty Hunter. From my knowledge, This is the highest boss damage you can get in the game currently. 3 radioactive horns, all double S grade. That is the most damage I can think of getting. Obviously with some bosses you're going to want to mix it up and then mix in a super regen coil in there as well. You can get the super regen coil from the combat guild after you take 2k boss damage. And that gives you regeneration plus. It heals you, but it also heals people that are standing near you. Which is very important if you're doing like spider or crab. You don't have to walk off the platform, you can just keep taking damage and healing yourself. But if you want to go full damage, then you go 3 radioactive horns. And let me show you what kind of damage that does. So this is a secret I like to say I unlocked with these 3 radioactive horns because I've never seen anyone else doing this, but I swear to you, it works. So let me call in a vehicle real quick. I could have just got it from the mechanic, but here we are. We're going to back up out of here, head to the beach, and spawn a boss. Do. Where is it? King Crab. Hello, my friend. Right now, here we go. This is the type of boss damage you're going to be seeing. So if I have 2 radioactive horns and a super regen coil on, you will notice that I'm doing... Here we go. I'm doing 330 damage. When I actually hit inside the strong. But if I put on a set with 3 radioactive horns, you will see that my damage actually increases to 377. And now, if I also put down a monarch totem, which is definitely a waste, but I'm just showing you for the video. If I put down a monarch totem, I will now be doing 471 damage. Have you ever seen anyone in this game doing 471 damage or higher? Because I haven't personally. Like, this is the most damage I have ever seen per hit. 471. And if you want to go super late game, you will notice these SS boss grades are different by like 2. So what you could do is take the 17% and keep re-rolling until you hit like a double S better one. But it costs 1,900 to re-roll your stats, and to get double S on boss damage is a little bit hard, but it's not actually as hard as you may believe. So let's just take down this boss real quick. Let's lock in. Hit all the strongs. Here we go. We can just tank this crab. But 471 damage is just crazy. I've never seen anything like it. Now, if any of you know how to get more boss damage than this, then please let me know in the comments, because I cannot figure it out. I am using a glinted shovel, which gives you 86 boss damage. That is the biggest boss damage you can get in the game. And I'm using 3 radioactive horns, which gives the best boss damage in the game. So how do I make it better? I don't know. Or do I have the best? So that is your full guide on everything boss charms. I know this video was long, but I really do hope it helped a lot of people. Like, I was very stuck with charms in the beginning of the game. I didn't know what charms to use, what charms to get, what charms to have. So if I could watch like a 20-30 minute video on how charms work exactly and what charms to get from beginner to end, that would be very useful. So if you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and if you really enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. And if I missed anything, I'm sorry. Please correct me.